Chapter 21-24, Even a broken clock is right twice a day. 3. The fox demon gave a start. The Sea King's words had revealed an important piece of information. If the Sea Clan's divine item still belonged to the Temple of Paragon, did this mean that Enchanting had one? The fox demon was shocked by this realization. Did she even know what Sea Soul Chess was? To think that she had one nonetheless. Oh yes, tell your holy lord that this Sea Soul Chess set is the last in the 2 domains. Today, I lost to her by 1 move and it will remain with her. But she must treat it well. I will challenge her again in the future. The eyes of the fox demon nearly popped out in astonishment. Enchanting defeated the Sea King. How in the world was that possible? Yes, I will inform the holy lord of your message. The fox demon maintained a calm and polite outward demeanor even as its heart was trembling from shock. Meanwhile, the Temple of Paragon elders was filled with all sorts of emotions. The other leaders felt that it was just par for course whether the Sea King and the Holy Lord won the chess match. Only the Temple of Paragon elders knew that the person inside the Sky Temple now was not the Holy Lord from that time. This was probably the first time she had laid eyes on the Sea Soul Chess. Having mentally prepared themselves for the loss of the Sea Clan's divine item, the elders felt very conflicted. Shocked, yet delighted. The fox demon had a servant hand the Sea Clan's divine item to the Sea King, before going over to join the rest standing at the side, keeping watch over the tightly closed temple door. They wanted to enter the Sky Temple now and ask Enchanting what the hell had happened. How did she manage to win? But with so many other people at present, they had no choice but to remain calm. The Sea Clan's divine item had to be reactivated in seawater. As a result, the Sea King brought the divine item into the waves and used his own power to cultivate over it. Meanwhile, the rest of the crowd was in no hurry. Seeing that the doors remained shut, they started to take in the surrounding scenery. In contrast, Elder Hua kept glancing at the temple door. Could it be that Enchanting had no idea how to open the temple door? Or, had she been scared to death? Or perhaps she had recovered some of her past lives' memories. The more Elder Hua thought about it, the more excited she became, and couldn't wait to dash into the temple. After a long time, the Sea Clan's divine item was successfully reactivated and returned to the fox demon. The Sea Clan then left with his people. The fox demon ordered the servants to secure the divine item properly, before leading the rest to the temple doors, all prepared to open it and ask Enchanting what happened. Still, the other spectators had yet to leave. They were waiting to offer their well wishes to the Holy Lord. But when the fox demon and gang opened the temple doors, there was no one inside the large temple. There was just that Sea Soul Chess set left right in the middle of the temple. As for Enchanting, she had already disappeared without a trace. The fox demon's face changed. Where did she go? The fox demon felt that something was not quite right. But as the other leaders were still present, it could not say anything. Instead, the fox demon had Elder Hua and the rest manage the affairs inside the temple, while he found an excuse to venture deeper into the temple to look for Enchanting. However, even though the fox demon searched the entire Sky Temple, it didn't find any traces of Enchanting. All it found was the wide-open back door of the temple, as well as a pile of the Holy Lord's luxurious clothing. Clothes that Enchanting should have been wearing. Where is she? Elder Hua hurried over and saw the same sight. Gone. The fox demon took a deep breath. Elder Hua, when did she leave? Chapter 21-25, Netherworld Academy. 1. Why didn't you close this back door after you brought her to this temple? The fox demon's voice was icy. Elder Hua was speechless. How was she to know that Enchanting would escape? Immediately send some men to find her. Yes. By the time the Temple of Paragon realized that Enchanting had gone missing, she had already disappeared without a trace from the Sky Temple. At this moment, she was hiding in a dense forest about 100 miles away from the Sky Temple. She finally stopped for a break after making sure that she had fled far enough. After the Sea King left, Enchanting had secretly eavesdropped on the situation outside. After hearing that the Sea King was going to reactivate the Sea Clan's divine item there and then, Enchanting knew that her chance to escape had come. Taking advantage of the time during which the Sea King was reactivating the item, Enchanting made her way over to the back door which she had already discovered earlier. She then slipped out and disappeared without a trace. Luckily the Sea King had brought over a large entourage of the Sea Clan and there was a lot of commotion created by the reactivation. Because of that, her escape had gone undetected. "I'm finally free." Enchanting heaved a sigh of relief. But she didn't remain idle. Taking out a set of men's clothes from her space ring, she set them aside. The Temple of Paragon would realize that she had escaped and she didn't want to be captured again and undergo their attempts to determine whether she was the Holy Lord's reincarnation. Enchanting changed her appearance and put on some men's clothing. She specially altered her appearance to look more mature, and no longer glowed with youth. Instead, she looked like a handsome youth in his 20s. After changing her appearance, Enchanting's state of mind also shifted. She was suddenly brought to the second domain and things had happened that were beyond her expectations. But the little lightning dragon's resurrection made her realize that the people from the first mainland had already been revived. At least this was a major burden lifted off her heart. Now, the heart of the heavenly Tao inside her was showing subtle signs of reviving, and the divine phoenix seal was nearly gone. Her most pressing need now was to find out why this heart of the heavenly Tao existed in her body. And the only one who could answer all that was probably that mother whom she had never met. Enchanting thought about the Dragon Emperor clan. She had to find that clan to seek out traces of her mother. This was the only way to solve the mystery behind the heart of the heavenly Tao. However, Enchanting had a big problem. The storm surrounding the mainland was not something that she could penetrate. Unless she devoted herself to cultivation for a few more years, there was no way she could pass through safely. She might even be discovered by the Temple of Paragon in the middle of her attempt, and there was no doubt they would recapture her. Enchanting did not have that much time. The divine phoenix seal would only hold on for at most a few more months. Suddenly, Enchanting thought of something which she had heard in her previous life. Between the second domain and the various mainlands, some people could pass through the storms. Not everyone could pass through those storms, but there were always people who needed to travel between the mainlands. In such cases, there were quite several powers who would dispatch strong practitioners to lead the way. Many academies would make use of a special artifact called the wind-calming pearl to pass through dangerous regions. But these wind-calming pearls were very rare. Only the top academies in the various mainlands possessed them. Even so, their numbers were very sparse. If she could get her hands on a wind-calming pearl, that meant she could leave this mainland. Enchanting's thoughts started to become clearer. Memories from her past life surfaced in her mind, containing all the information about this mainland. According to those memories, several academies on this mainland had the wind-calming pearl. Chapter 21-26, Netherworld Academy. 2. The relations between the mainlands in the second domain were not like those in the first domain. And within the second domain, the total population of the alien races had already surpassed the number of humans. No matter which mainland one was in, one could see many alien race people. The academies here did not discriminate amongst the races. Anyone could enroll as long as one had the talent. A massive academy sat atop the mountain range. The Netherworld Academy. The Netherworld Academy was renowned in the mainland. It had groomed many famous powerful practitioners. It was no exaggeration to say that all the talented youths on this mainland wished to enroll in academies like the Netherworld Academy, to better their martial arts. Every year during this period, the Netherworld Academy would open its doors to new students. The expansive mountain range was already crowded with youths who had come to seek admission. Most of them were accompanied by elders from their family clans. They had all come forth to participate in the Netherworld Academy's enrollment exercise. The Netherworld Academy had very strict admission requirements. They only accepted students in their teens. Also, they had very stringent requirements regarding cultivation levels. If a potential student could not reach their required level, regardless of how powerful their background was, they would still be rejected. Nonetheless, the Netherworld Academy had the right to impose such strict standards. Every single one of the Netherworld Academy graduates had become exceptional practitioners. A slender figure stood amongst the crowded masses, looking very quiet and refined, yet different from the other prodigies. He was alone and submerged in the sea of people, no one would notice his presence. Enchanting weaved through the masses and looked at the crowded gates of the Netherworld Academy. She observed a gang of energetic youths, confidently walking up to take part in the test and decided to follow them. In her previous life, Enchanting only heard some rumors regarding the Netherworld Academy. This time, she had set her sights on this academy for two reasons. One was because the timing was just right. The second was because an institution of the Netherworld Academy's level would have a decent number of wind-calming pearls. Consequently, it would be less difficult for her to obtain a pearl. However, when Enchanting arrived at the Netherworld Academy and observed the youths who had come to seek admission, she finally realized why the academy was so renowned across the mainland. These youths were at most 15 to 16 years of age, but their aura was at least Paragon 5th Heaven level and above. There were even some who had already reached Paragon 9th Heaven levels. If this was the first domain, they would be considered top of the top practitioners. But these freakishly powerful young talents might not even be able to pass the Netherworld Academy's admission exercise. One could just imagine the disparity between the two domains. Enchanting had believed that with her own Paragon-level abilities, it would be a piece of cake to enter the Netherworld Academy. But now it appeared that things would be somewhat challenging. One couldn't blame Enchanting. She had come to the second domain in her previous life but had never entered any of the academies here. She was still rather unfamiliar with the situation here. Enchanting was prepared to reassess her situation when a youth dressed in a Netherworld Academy uniform sauntered over from the front of the crowds. The youth looked like in his 20s and exuded an extremely formidable aura. His sharp eyes scanned the crowd of youths who had come for the admission exercise, as if wanting to see through them. Chapter 21-27, Netherworld Academy, 3. When the youth stood in front of Enchanting, he sized her up impassively before speaking. You can go back. The youth's words attracted the attention of the other youths in his group. They looked toward Enchanting and saw a skinny youth in his 20s. They were speechless. The Netherworld Academy had an age limit for their students. The skinny youth in front of them was already over the age limit. Unless he had mind-blowing talents, the Netherworld Academy would never accept him. The youths at present were all very powerful. Most of them were at higher levels than Enchanting. That was why they could see at one glance that Enchanting, she was at most only at the Paragon 6th Heaven level. Someone at the Paragon 6 Heaven level might be able to scrape past the minimum criteria, but this was already the baseline requirement for a youth in his teens. And this person was already past the age limit. A person of this age and only at the Paragon 6 Heaven level practitioner. It was a right joke that he wished to enter the Netherworld Academy. It was good to know one's place. A pity that he didn't. Leave. You do not fit the admission requirements of my academy. The youth spoke without any attempt at politeness. There had been many unqualified people who had come forth to seek admission in the past. Most of them would quietly leave after being singled out. But this person remained unmoving and he lost his patience. "But I didn't come to participate in the admission exercise," Enchanting replied pleasantly. The youth frowned at Enchanting's words. "Why are you standing here then? Are you here to make trouble?" Gazing steadily at the impatient youth, Enchanting replied, "I am here to apply to be a teacher." Everyone was dumbstruck by Enchanting's words. Their condescending expressions instantly changed to shock. It was as if they were looking at a mad person. "What did you say?" The youth thought he must have misheard. "I am here to apply to be a teacher," Enchanting repeated. After observing the youths who had come to enroll in the Netherworld Academy, Enchanting had changed her plan. If she couldn't be a student, she would be a teacher then. PFFFTTT, someone in the crowd couldn't hold back his laughter. More laughter soon followed and all the surrounding youths ended up in fits of laughter. The sounds of laughter spread across the crowd. The youth's face instantly became very stern. "I think you are here to make trouble. If you refuse to leave, I will have no choice but to use force." The youth frowned even deeper. Teacher. Was he dreaming? He wasn't even qualified to be a Netherworld Academy student, yet he wanted to be a teacher. This was probably the greatest joke he had ever heard in his life. Wow, so formidable. This brother has ambition. Not bad, I think he must have drunk too much last night and is still suffering from a hangover. One of the youths guffawed. Enchanting's words were like a drunkard's. "Brother, you can do it. I support you." Ha! A bunch of youths laughed uproariously. They didn't expect to encounter such entertainment while waiting in line. The world was so big, nothing was impossible. Chapter 21-28, Netherworld Academy, 4, a Paragon-level practitioner who wanted to be a teacher to those who were at higher levels. This person was either mad or just plain stupid. "I don't think you have much hope of becoming a teacher. Brother, if you really want to enter the Netherworld Academy, I suggest another route for you. The Academy also recruits servants every year, so you can go try your luck over there. I am sure you can do it." The bunch of youths made all sorts of jibes, treating the whole situation like a right joke. The youth from the Netherworld Academy looked increasingly grim. He had never met someone who was so unaware of his place. The commotion attracted the attention of many others. Suddenly a middle-aged man in a long robe emerged from the crowd. The laughing youths immediately fell silent at the sight of that man. Those youths looked at the middle-aged man with respect and awe. "What's going on?" A baritone voice rang out. The youth instantly wiped the impatient expression off his face when he saw the middle-aged man. He went forward and cupped his fists respectfully. "Teacher D. Noir, this person is here to make trouble. He said that he wants to apply to be a teacher at Netherworld Academy." D. Noir frowned as he looked at the frail-looking Enchanting, and a look of annoyance flashed across his eyes. "You want to apply to be a teacher?" "Yes." Enchanting nodded. The surrounding youths didn't say anything but ridicule flashed across their eyes. This was Teacher D. Noir. He was one of the most reputable teachers in the Netherworld Academy. Many students who specialized in martial arts fought for the chance to be under him. "What qualifications do you have to be a teacher? Your cultivation level is not even as high as many of our students. How can you be a teacher like that? Please leave now and I will take it that you were never here. The Netherworld Academy is not a place where one can just come and make trouble," D. Noir said impatiently. If not for the fact that there were many other people around, he would have already flung this ignorant fool off the mountain. There was no way he would tolerate this kid here making wild claims. To be a teacher, cultivation level is just one of the factors. It is not the absolute end-all be-all. Enchanting spoke calmly. Whispering sound spread across the crowd. De Noa never expected this youth to be so ignorant. Seeing the reaction of the crowd, there was no way he would let others witness such a disrespectful incident right outside the gates of the Netherworld Academy. If you want to apply to be a teacher, please follow me. If you don't have the skills to back up your claims, don't blame me for being nasty. To avoid creating an unpleasant scene in public, De Noa decided to lead this person away first. Otherwise, if anything bad happened, it might affect the reputation of the Netherworld Academy. Enchanting nodded on seeing that she now had a way in. She followed De Noa over to the teacher application area in the Netherworld Academy. Those youths in the queue continued to smile mockingly at the sight of Enchanting following De Noa. I will bet a bottle of elixir that this brother will be tossed down the hill within an hour. An hour? You think too highly of him. Which of the Netherworld Academy teachers are not elite practitioners? This impudent fellow is only at the Paragon level. If his application is successful, I will cut off my own head and let you kick it around like a football. I bet that he would be chased out in just a few minutes. And what's that about cultivation level being just one of the factors? If powers are not the absolute end-all be-all, what are we all here for? Ridiculous. The group of youths chattered on, but they soon forgot about that incident. Compared to that unimportant scene, they were more focused on their upcoming admission exercise. Chapter 21-29, Netherworld Academy, 5. After all, only by passing this admission test would they be able to officially become students of the Netherworld Academy. Enchanting and De Noa arrived at another entrance at the academy. It was empty, unlike the previous teeming crowds. You need to come here if you wish to apply to be a teacher, De Noa said in a solemn voice. Do you know why there is no one around? Enchanting shook her head. Because the Netherworld Academy will only accept those who are powerful enough to be teachers. Those who are not powerful enough have no right and no confidence of stepping onto our grounds. De Noa's tone was mild, with a sliver of arrogance. Of course, Enchanting heard the underlying sarcasm in De Noa's words, mocking her lack of self-awareness. But she did not care about that. All was fine as long as she could enter the Netherworld Academy to get the wind-calming pearl. An elder sat in front of a table inside the room. Another middle-aged man was standing at the side discussing something with him. Vice President, this cultivation method can strengthen one's foundations, but it is no longer suitable for people above the age of 15 to practice, said the middle-aged man. This cultivation method was created by a great nascent cultivator and has been passed down for many years. But it has always been practiced by children below the age of 10, to establish their foundations. Although there are benefits to this cultivation method, it is no longer suitable for our students at this age. As they continued their discussion, they suddenly heard footsteps. The middle-aged man lifted his head and saw De Noa with Enchanting following behind. Astonishment flashed across his eyes. De Noa, this is Teacher Luo. This person wants to apply to be a teacher at our Netherworld Academy, De Noa replied. Teacher Luo was taken aback. He stared at Enchanting with obvious shock. With his abilities, he could naturally sense Enchanting's cultivation level. At this level, there was no way she could even become a student, much less a teacher. Is this a joke? We are discussing cultivation methods and have no time to humor people like that. Please have him leave immediately, Teacher Luo spoke up impatiently. The elder in front of the table didn't even lift his head. He continued to study the remnants of a book on the table. De Noa turned to look at Enchanting, indicating that she could get lost now. Since Enchanting managed to make her way in, there was no way she would give up on her goal to enter the Netherworld Academy. Scanning her eyes across the table, she saw that there were many cultivation books on the table. Before Di Noa managed to chase her away, she hastily spoke up. "You are studying the Dorit cultivation method." The middle-aged man was taken aback by Yi Qingtang's words and he frowned. "That's right." Chapter 2130, A Disparity of 300 Years. 1. The middle-aged man was taken aback by Yi Qingtang's words. The elder also slowly lifted his head and saw for the first time the youthful-looking, frail, young man. "How did you know that the Dorit cultivation method is meant for internal cultivation?" the elder asked in a slightly raspy voice. The Dorit cultivation method had been in the second domain for a long time. It was no longer a new, remarkable technique and everyone knew it was only suitable for children below the age of 10 to practice. But to this day no one knew that it was meant for internal cultivation. Even for them, they only discovered some clues hinting at this after studying this method for a long time. Where did this youth come from and how did he know that? The Dorit cultivation method has many cultivation techniques, but because the records are incomplete, no one has been able to understand most of them. But actually, it is not difficult to adjust the techniques, Yi Qingtang piped up. "Kid, you are making a very big claim there." "Not difficult. Do you know that we only have half of the Dorit cultivation method records left? Many of the techniques have been lost because of that." "You are claiming that it is not difficult, don't tell me you know how to make the records complete." The middle-aged man was annoyed by Yi Qingtang's words. Heaven knew how much time he had wasted studying this incomplete cultivation method. "I do." Yi Qingtang responded frankly. The middle-aged man nearly fainted from anger at Yi Qingtang's arrogant words. Before he could speak up again, the elder cut in. "How?" Yi Qingtang replied, "The great nascent cultivator left behind quite a number of cultivation methods, including many foundation techniques. His cultivation methods all follow a similar pattern. You just need to analyze the missing portions of the Dorit cultivation method, and then use the basic concepts of his other techniques to fill in the blanks." The three men all looked rather dubious when they heard what Yi Qingtang said. Ignoring their reaction, Yi Qingtang walked up to the table. She picked up a piece of paper and pen. Di Noa looked annoyed and wanted to stop Yi Qingtang's transgression. But the elder shot Di Noa a look, warning him not to interfere. Following her memories from her past life from 300 years into the future, she scribbled down the missing parts of the Dorit cultivation method. In reality, this Dorit cultivation method was already being studied by powerful practitioners in the second domain. But at least 100 years would pass before they would realize that they could use another cultivation method to fill in the blanks of the Dorit cultivation method. Yi Qingtang soon wrote out a portion of the missing parts and displayed her work on the table. Wasting no time, the elder studied the paper. The middle-aged man also glanced at her work dubiously. But amazement flashed across their eyes as they continued to read. It should be pointed out that they had already studied this cultivation method for decades, but made little headway. It could be said that no one in the second domain knew more about this cultivation method than them. And so the moment they looked over Yi Qingtang's writings, they immediately felt like a veil was being lifted from their eyes. The Dorit cultivation method is useful, but it is not irreplaceable. There are many foundational cultivation methods now that have certain drawbacks. There is no need to separate internal cultivation and spiritual cultivation. Using your internal energy to boost the refinement of your mental energy, it would be faster this way. Yi Qingtang continued to explain as she watched the astonished expressions of the three men. Although she may not be confident about other things, she was certain that the number of foundational cultivation methods 300 years into the future would definitely surpass those in the present times. Chapter 2131, A Disparity of 300 Years. 2. These foundational techniques didn't seem like much, but they would affect the future increase in cultivation levels. The higher one's cultivation level was, the more influence it would have. So in 300 years, because of a change in martial arts and the emergence of powerful practitioners, the increase in cultivation levels in the future was much higher than in this present period. The elder and the middle-aged man exchanged glances. They both saw the unusual glint in each other's eyes. Nodding slightly at the middle-aged man, the latter took up another book from the table as he looked at Enchanting. Do you have a good understanding of foundation techniques? Enchanting nodded. Then do you know about the heavenly mental cultivation technique? The middle-aged man asked. The heavenly mental cultivation technique was a foundational mental cultivation technique that could establish a very stable foundation in cultivators, and could also be used as a long-term cultivation technique. When practiced to advanced levels, it would also offer much higher protection against mental demons. However, this heavenly mental cultivation technique required a lot of time to practice, and it did not do much to increase one's cultivation levels. As a result, many powerful practitioners gave up practicing it after some time. I am aware. Enchanting nodded. What opinion do you have about the heavenly mental cultivation technique? The middle-aged man's tone subconsciously became much more warm and polite. The practice of the heavenly mental cultivation technique is very cumbersome now. In reality, you only need to familiarize yourself with the first 3 steps, and then specialize in the final 3 steps. This can greatly shorten the time spent, Enchanting explained. The middle-aged man was taken aback. A look of sudden understanding also flashed across the elder's eyes. Following that, they asked Enchanting about a few other foundational cultivation techniques and methods. Enchanting did not hold back and explained everything. She had suggestions for improvement for all of them. For some, she even recommended a complete revamp. For these things, some other people might not understand how apt her suggestions were. But the elder and the middle-aged man knew very well, as they had been studying these methods for a long time. The more foundation-focused a cultivation technique was, the greater its future influence. It was something that would follow the practitioner for a long time, and they could afford to make no mistakes. Time and experience were needed for one to fully grasp these things. If they had not personally heard it, none of them would believe that this simple-sounding, yet profound explanation was being spouted from the lips of a young man in his early 20s. Di Noa had been ready to chase Enchanting away. But the other two were hanging on to her every word, their discussion getting increasingly excited. Di Noa couldn't help feeling astonished. As he specialized in martial arts, he did not know the key aspects of these foundational cultivation methods. He was unable to follow the discussion and didn't feel that Enchanting was saying anything important. So why did those two have such expressions on their faces? As the discussion progressed, mixed emotions appeared on the faces of the elder and middle-aged man. Enchanting had resolved many of their doubts and unresolved questions accumulated over many years. This kid's understanding of the foundation cultivation techniques was even deeper than theirs. What's your name? The elder suddenly lifted his eyes to look at Enchanting. His expression was friendly and cordial now. I am Enchanting. To make things simple, Enchanting just cut off one syllabus from her real name. The younger generation is indeed our future. The elder gave a small smile. You want to become a teacher at our Netherworld Academy? Enchanting nodded. Luo Xing, make the arrangements for her. The elder instructed. Di Noa was dumbstruck by the elder's words. What was he saying? Was the elder accepting this kid's application to become a teacher? Chapter 2132, A Disparity of 300 Years, 3. The middle-aged man, Luo Xing, nodded. When he looked at Enchanting, there was no longer any impatience in his eyes. Instead, they were filled with an approving light. This kid might not be that powerful, but this level of understanding of cultivation techniques was a rare talent. If they used her method to teach, they might be able to bring about some positive changes to the Netherworld Academy. Enchanting heaved a secret sigh of relief. It appeared that she had made the right decision. She might not be that powerful, but her knowledge of martial arts garnered 300 years into the future definitely surpassed the current understanding. It should be no problem at all for her to handle. After all, the knowledge she possessed had been tested and refined by countless strong practitioners over 300 years. Luo Xing left with Enchanting. As they passed by Di Nuo, he looked somewhat awkward. His sarcastic words toward Enchanting earlier were now like a slap thrown right back at his own face. He could hardly believe that this piece of trash was able to become a teacher at the Netherworld Academy. But the truth of the matter had his confidence shattered, after Luo Xing and Enchanting left. Di Nuo could no longer hold back. Vice President, are you really going to allow him to become a teacher at the Netherworld Academy? The elder sitting in front of the table was indeed the Vice President of the Netherworld Academy, Wen Qi. Wen Qi nodded. He might not be that powerful, but his understanding of martial art techniques is extraordinary. I have never seen such an advanced level of understanding in anyone else before. Wen Qi looked very pleased as he explained. Di Nuo's face turned somewhat grim, but he did not dare to express too much displeasure in front of Wen Qi. Vice President, please allow me to say this. This kid's powers are too lousy. If he becomes a teacher at the Netherworld Academy, I am afraid we would be subject to criticism from some others. His presence would make the Netherworld Academy a laughingstock. Anyway, he was just talking about some foundational techniques. No one knows whether or not it will work, and what kind of results would be achieved. You cannot risk our reputation just because he has made some bold claims. Di Nuo really couldn't tolerate having someone of Enchanting's cultivation level present as a teacher. The thought of having to be a teacher together with a piece of trash like that, he felt that was a major disgrace. The Netherworld Academy was the top academy in the mainland. Every single teacher here was an exemplary practitioner. Any one of them could easily become a top fighter. Of course Wen Qi had considered this point. But Enchanting's words had truly amazed him. This is only a temporary situation. I need to observe and test him over some time. If he is found to be lacking, he will not become a true teacher at our academy. At that, Di Nuo heaved a sigh of relief. If Vice President wants to test if his methods are effective, you can pick a few students for him to mentor as a trial. Di Nuo suddenly suggested. That is possible. Wen Qi nodded. You can pick the students. I will have Luo Xing observe. He will manage the situation if anything happens. Wen Qi was just hiring Enchanting to try out some new methods. He always believed that foundational techniques were very important to one's cultivation. That was why he paid close attention to this. It was just that foundational techniques were typically ingrained over a long period of time, making it very difficult to introduce any improvements. Enchanting's appearance gave Wen Qi an opportunity to try something new. Chapter 2133, Brats, 1, okay, I'll arrange for it now. Di Nuo's eyes shifted around before he left. Soon after, Di Nuo found the youth who was busy outside. When the youth heard that Enchanting had permission from the vice president to enter the Netherworld Academy, he was stunned. Teacher Di Nuo, how is he even fit to become a teacher at the Netherworld Academy? Are you joking? The youth wasn't supportive and his expression was filled with discontent. This Enchanting's arrival was bound to diminish the prestige of the Netherworld Academy. The vice president has already decided. As for how long she can stay at the Netherworld Academy, we don't know yet. Bring Qin Feng, Lei Yan and the others over. He will be in charge of them. Di Nuo pointed out a few names. The youth's expression suddenly changed when those students were pointed out. Teacher Di Nuo, you're handing Qin Feng and the rest to Yi Qing. Di Nuo nodded. Aren't Qin Feng and the others going to be expelled from the academy next year? It's precisely because of that, so we will hand them over to Yi Qing. Did you really think that he'll let the students receive such lousy guidance from him? Di Nuo said. The youth instantly understood what Di Nuo meant and he went to look for them. On the other hand, Enchanting had her own study room after being brought into the Netherworld Academy. She wasn't in a rush at all. So long as she entered the Netherworld Academy, she would surely stand a chance to lay her hands on the wind-calming pearl. She didn't care about anything other than that. Teacher Luo, I heard that the Netherworld Academy makes its way to the eastward mainland every year. Enchanting asked Luo Xing curiously. The eastward mainland wasn't too far away from the mainland she was at. However, if she wanted to leave the mainland, she would need to use the wind-calming pearl. Yes. The eastward mainland is one of the mainlands with the most flourishing martial arts culture in the second domain. Luo Xing didn't think too much about Yi Qing's question and just answered. The Netherworld Academy would select an elite group of students every year and the teachers would bring them to the eastward mainland to attend a competition with the other academies. These students had to be the cream of the crop while the teachers guiding them along would accompany them there. Enchanting had an idea once she heard those words. The wind-calming pearl was one of the treasures of the Netherworld Academy. Though the Netherworld Academy had more wind-calming pearls than other academies, it was still considered a limited supply. It would normally be under the president's possession and only when there are competitions then the president would distribute them among the teachers accompanying the students. This was the only opportunity for Enchanting to use the wind-calming pearl to leave the mainland. Chapter 2134, Brats, 2. Luo Xing nodded as he agreed to the vice president's decision. He was satisfied with Yi Qing's unique understanding of martial arts foundations, but the youth wasn't powerful enough and that worried him. He had to be careful when using him. Which students? Luo Xing asked. The youth didn't dare hide anything. He reported the few students that were pointed out by Di Nuo. Luo Xing's brows suddenly furrowed when he heard those names. Were they chosen by the vice president? Luo Xing asked. The youth replied, the vice president allowed teacher Di Nuo to make the decision. They were chosen by teacher Di Nuo. Luo Xing's brows furrowed even more. He could already sense that Di Nuo wasn't too pleased with Yi Qing's arrival. Got it. Get them to wait at the East Campus. Luo Xing waved his hand before he turned to Yi Qing. I have some other matters to handle. Go to the East Campus first and meet the students. They may be a little weird, but since you're only guiding them along for the foundation of their martial art, there shouldn't be any problem. It was obvious that Luo Xing didn't feel confident saying those words. Enchanting watched as Luo Xing spoke hesitantly. Hearing that those students were chosen by Di Nuo, she could already sense something was off. She could sense that teacher Di Nuo wasn't going to give her any good students. It didn't matter anyway, so Enchanting wasn't bothered. She was confident in herself. However, when she headed to the East Campus, she realized that she had underestimated teacher Di Nuo. In a huge classroom, there were only a few students seated. The classroom was spacious enough to accommodate 100 students, but there were only 6 students in there. There were 5 males and 1 female. It seemed they were around 16 to 17 years old. They were supposed to be students but looking at their demeanor, what the hell is this? When are they going to stop bothering us? I was asleep and they wanted me to come to this place. A tall and handsome youth was obviously annoyed. He stepped on the table with one leg and behaved as though he was a king. The teachers wanted us to come, so did. A thin youth with a hunched back answered the tall youth. Terror was written all over his already pale face. Did I even ask you? Who are you to talk? Get lost. I'm disgusted just looking at your face. How the hell did you even enter the Netherworld Academy without a pure bloodline? The tall youth didn't give a damn and glared at the thin youth. The thin youth was terrified. He took a few steps back, in fear that the tall youth would beat him. Young Master Lei Yen is acting like a big shot here. This isn't the martial branch, none of your lackeys are here with you. You'd better behave yourself before you get punched. No one will help you when that happens. A smiley youth warned the tall and arrogant youth. Nangong Lai, is your skin itching? My skin is not itching, but my fists are. Is young Master Lei going to stop my itch? Lei Yan and Nangong Lai were almost going to start a fight and the thin youth was horrified, he went completely pale. This was the scene Enchanting witnessed once she stepped into the classroom. The corners of her mouth twitched and she didn't say a thing. She merely proceeded to sit on a chair at the side. Chapter 2135, Brats, 3. At this point, everyone's attention was focused on Nangong Lai and Lei Yan. No one noticed the sudden appearance of an additional person. Stop it, both of you. I heard that a new teacher is coming to teach us today. He will be here any moment now. A pale, handsome teenager spoke, the hint of a smile at the corners of his lips. But that pallid complexion looked rather worrying. Another dumb teacher. Who cares? I'm not afraid of him. Lei Yan sneered, putting on a bullying stance. In response, the handsome teenager smiled but kept silent. Eyes scanning the room, he saw a petite girl sitting in the corner. She appeared to be only about 12 to 13 years old and was sitting there quietly, a tattered-looking patchwork cloth doll in her arms. Apart from her, there was another figure sleeping on the table in the back row of the classroom. After analyzing the group, she realized that there was no one normal in here. But as he looked toward the front, he realized that a refined-looking, slender youth had suddenly appeared and was sitting on a chair near the door. Lei Yan, stop talking to this fool. Let's finish our fight. Nangong Lai continued to challenge him. There was no way Lei Yan would tolerate such provocation. He flung his sleeves and charged forward to fight him. Meanwhile, Enchanting sat there with her chin propped up on one hand, watching these two impulsive teenagers about to engage in a fight. She then glanced down at the booklet in her other hand, ignoring the ruckus. Nangong Lai and Lei Yan started fighting, the classroom filled with their boisterous movements. But before long, Lei Yan was pressed onto the floor by Nangong Lai. He was already seeing stars from the vicious beating, but he refused to beg for mercy. Instead, he cursed Nangong Lai and all his ancestors. Lei Yan, I would shut up if I were you. This mouth of yours is so useless, all it has done is to gain you a few more punches. Nangong Lai chortled as he sat on Lei Yan's belly. Every time Lei Yan cursed at him, he would give him a punch in return. He showed him no mercy at all. Nangong Lai, just you wait and see. I will gather some men to kill you. Ooh, I'm so scared. Nangong Lai laughed out loud before giving him another vicious punch. Seeing that the fight had gone on long enough, Enchanting finally stood up and walked to the front of the classroom. Are you done fighting? The others in the classroom snapped out of their trance at the sudden new voice. Apart from the teenager who had noticed Enchanting earlier, this was the first time that the rest of them had noticed the arrival of this nondescript youth. When did this guy arrive? Let me introduce myself. I am Enchanting, your teacher from now on. Enchanting grinned, acting as if the unruly scene before her was completely normal. Enchanting. I've never heard of you before. When did the Netherworld Academy hire a new teacher? Nangong Lai looked very suspicious. Taking advantage of this situation, Lei Yan scrambled to his feet. He was behaving himself now and didn't continue his fight with Nangong Lai. Greetings, Teacher Yi Qing. I am Yun Chen. The pale handsome teenager spoke up first. He bowed politely toward Yi Qing Tang, looking very respectful. I am Jing Zhe, the timid teenager also spoke up in a trembling voice. Chapter 2136, Good Boy, 1, Jing Zhe. Yi Qing Tang was taken aback when she heard the name. She recalled the name Jing Zhe from her past life memories 300 years into the future. But the Yun Mian Palace Master. He was an evil man who murdered many people. This boy before her, Yi Qing Tang seriously suspected that they just happened to have the same name. Apart from those two, the others ignored Yi Qing Tang and went about their own matters. In both her previous and current life, Yi Qing Tang had stayed in her fair share of academies and sections. She had seen many strange disciples and students before, but they were considered normal compared to these few in front of her. Teacher Yi Qing, he is Nangong Lai and that is Lei Yan. As for this little girl, her name should be Mu Ziying. And that guy over there is Qin Feng. Yun Chen saw that the rest were remaining silent and so good-naturedly introduced them all. Yi Qing Tang had heard about these few earlier. But now that she was seeing them in person, she still couldn't help feeling somewhat shocked. Especially Qin Feng, who remained sprawled motionless at the back. A conflicted glint appeared in Yi Qing Tang's eyes. Qin Feng was a disciple from the Qin family. And Yi Qing Tang had ties with the Qin family. She remembered meeting the Sword of Destruction deity Qin Zhuo at the Cursed Land. Qin Zhuo belonged to the Qin family and before he went missing, the Qin family was considered one of the most powerful family clans in the second domain. But with the disappearance of Qin Zhuo and the Sword of Destruction, the Qin family lost their high standing and tumbled down the ranks. It was all thanks to Qin Zhuo's advice that Yi Qing Tang was able to leave the cursed land. Otherwise, she would probably still be there living out a wretched life. Yi Qing Tang instinctively stroked her space ring. Before leaving, Qin Zhuo had handed the Sword of Destruction to her. He wanted her to hand it over to a descendant of the Qin family, but she had no idea whether Qin Feng's branch of the Qin family was the same as Qin Zhuo's. I say, Teacher Yi. Your cultivation level doesn't look that high. Nangong Lai spoke up in a lazy manner. He was smiling but that smile failed to reach his eyes. That's right. I am only at the Paragon 6th heaven level, Yi Qing Tang replied. She had improved her powers during this period of time but her current level was still considered nothing in the second domain. Several of the teenagers shot her strange looks. Lei Yan's face instantly turned black. What the hell? Why did the Netherworld Academy assign such a piece of trash to teach us? Paragon 6th heaven level. A teacher. What kind of joke is this? Lei Yan was furious. In the entire Netherworld Academy, apart from the teachers at the medicine faculty, none of the other teachers were at the Paragon level. But they were now assigned a Paragon 6th heaven level teacher. Surely this must be a joke. Nangong Lai's smile widened as he folded his hands behind his head. 6th heaven level. Excuse me Teacher Yi, but I am slightly higher than you. So I won't be listening to your teachings. I will take my leave first. With that, Nangong Lai started to leave. The others in the classroom didn't speak but they likewise looked prepared to leave. Even the good-natured Yun Chen had also started to make his way out. Within seconds, only Yi Qing Tang and the stuttering Jing Zhe were left in the classroom. Teacher Yi, Jing Zhe remained standing there obediently as he looked at Yi Qing Tang in fear. Yi Qing Tang watched the departing profiles of those teenagers impassively. It was fine, there was still one left. Chapter 2137, Good Boy, 2. Well then, let's begin the lesson now. Enchanting grinned at Jingzai, who was standing alone in front of her. Jingzai gave a small start before nodding his head. He obediently sat down and looked at Enchanting with a compliant expression. Looking at this good boy and recalling that notorious evil man from 300 years into the future, Enchanting couldn't help feeling somewhat incredulous. Are you at the Paragon 6th heaven level? Enchanting asked Jingzai. Jingzai nodded timidly. What is your bloodline? Enchanting asked. In the second domain, spirit roots were already completely ineffective. The true crux was bloodline. The higher quality one's bloodline was, the higher one's chance was of becoming very powerful. In academies like the Netherworld Academy, nearly everyone came from a powerful bloodline. I don't have a bloodline. Jingzai lowered his head and mumbled. Enchanting was taken aback. You don't have a bloodline? Yes. Jingzai's voice became even softer. It doesn't matter. Countless strong practitioners in this world still manage to achieve high status even without a bloodline. Enchanting tried to console him. She really couldn't bear to say anything that would upset this obedient teenager. Jingzai raised his head in amazement. He looked at the youth who was even shorter than himself. Teacher Yi, you are truly a good person. Enchanting, what did she do to suddenly become a good person? I just managed to scrape past the entry requirements when I first enrolled in the Netherworld Academy. I was already a Paragon 6th heaven level then, but failed to make any progress even after so many years here. All the teachers think that I am useless. Firstly, it's because I have no bloodline. Secondly, it looks like my cultivation level is already stagnant. Before today, a teacher told me that if I don't improve my cultivation level soon, I will be kicked out of the Netherworld Academy. Jingzai clasped his hands together as he lowered his head and spoke in a small voice. After all, he was not a disciple from any notable family and didn't have the support of some great clan. He was just from a normal family and had worked hard for every single one of his own achievements. But, after coming to the Netherworld Academy, the stagnation of his skills had him dropping into a deep abyss. He was ridiculed by everyone and his already introverted character turned even more timid. Enchanting couldn't help sighing at Jingzai's words. She recalled how her former self lost her spirit root and ended up in a similar situation. It was common for the cultivation levels of some to stop after reaching a certain stage. Some practitioners would forever remain at a certain level without any progress. Don't worry. I will not let you get kicked out of the academy. Enchanting looked at Jingzai. Jingzai lifted his head and gazed at Enchanting with sparkling eyes. It was like he had seen his final chance at life. All the teachers had already given up on him. He himself had been resigned to his fate. What martial arts did you practice before? Tell me about them all. Enchanting spoke seriously. Logically, Jingzai was still young and his cultivation level should not be fixed so soon. Enchanting believed that there must be a problem somewhere. So Jingzai obediently told Enchanting about all the martial arts that he had practiced before. As Enchanting listened, she couldn't detect anything wrong. She then had Jingzai circulate his energy as she tried to analyze his internal energy. Enchanting discovered something strange during her analysis. She could clearly feel that Jingzai possessed a huge amount of spirit energy inside him. But it seemed like the spirit energy was being restrained by something. It was as if Chapter 2138, Good Boy, 3. While Enchanting was analyzing Jingzai, her devouring bloodline was suddenly triggered. The moment her devouring bloodline was triggered, Enchanting felt that some energy was gradually being awakened inside Jingzai's body. It was the power of a bloodline. Enchanting could feel that very clearly, and she was startled by this discovery. "I thought you don't have a bloodline?" Enchanting asked. "Huh?" Jingzhe was taken aback. Enchanting stared at Jingzhe. "Some bloodlines will not emerge right after birth. They need a certain external trigger to be awakened. I detected a very mysterious bloodline aura inside your body just now. I think that you might have a bloodline but that it is more special and needs to be activated." This kind of situation was quite rare. But 300 years into the future, there would be many different ways to awaken a bloodline. "Do you wish to activate your bloodline?" Enchanting asked. Dazed, Jingzhe immediately nodded at her question. "Yes." Enchanting smiled. "It is not an easy task. At the very least, you will have to relearn all your martial arts foundation techniques. 300 years into the future, many family clans would have their descendants practice a special kind of technique from a young age, to avoid having a bloodline remain dormant. This kind of technique was very complicated, but as long as one practiced it properly, any kind of bloodline could be awakened. This was common knowledge in the future. But at this present time, practitioners had yet to discover this technique. Enchanting told Jingzhe about the technique to activate his bloodline. Jingzhe listened very attentively. He was worried about missing out on a single word. Enchanting observed Jingzhe's studious manner and couldn't help feeling rather satisfied. No matter what kind of bloodline this good boy had, as long as they awakened it, it would be a great help to his current situation. In addition, if Enchanting told him about all those martial art techniques from 300 years into the future, she believed that he would improve even further. What Enchanting didn't know was that her current actions had changed Jingzhe's destiny completely. And after Jingzhe's bloodline was awakened, she would be the one who would be the most shocked. Teaching Jingzhe was like a revision exercise for Enchanting herself. When she was in the first domain, she had faced danger from all sides and could not concentrate on cultivating. Now that she was in the Netherworld Academy and teaching Jingzhe, she could also try all those cultivation techniques which she didn't get the chance to try in her previous life. Perhaps it might bring about a major boost to her abilities. As Enchanting and Jingzhe worked on the cultivation of their martial art, those teenagers who had left the classroom seemed oblivious to what was happening. Even if the Netherworld Academy wants to chase us out, they don't have to stoop to such low tactics, right? What kind of teacher is that? A Paragon 6th heaven level. What a joke. Lei Yan ranted angrily. In reality, few of them were on the Netherworld Academy's blacklist. If things went on as they were, this group would soon be kicked out of the academy. Why has Jingzhe not come out? Don't tell me he is really going to listen to that punk. Nangong Lai scanned the group and realized that Jingzhe had stayed behind. Jingzhe is a piece of trash himself. There's nothing wrong with him being with another trash. The two of them complement each other. Lei Yan yawned. A figure walked past him and his expression shifted. Chapter 2139, Indignant. 1. Qin Feng was strolling past with an expressionless face. Even with Lei Yan's character, he became more subdued on seeing Qin Feng. He only recovered his usual bluster after Qin Feng left. I find it very strange. Why was Qin Feng also pushed over to that Yi Qing? Lei Yan was truly surprised to see Qin Feng. After all, Qin Feng was not mediocre like the rest of this group. Qin Feng was a famous prodigy. I really don't know what this academy is thinking. Lei Yan muttered to himself. Seeing that no one was paying him any heed, he turned to leave. Over the next few days, Jingzhe alone stayed by Enchanting's side day after day, obediently listening to her teachings. It was Yi Qingtang's first time teaching someone martial arts. She found it rather refreshing, and faced with an obedient student like Jing Zhe, she did not hold back on any information. As a result, for the first time since she was reborn, Yi Qingtang finally experienced the disparity in the standard of martial arts now compared to 300 years into the future. On top of learning from Yi Qingtang every day, Jing Zhe also had to go to the other faculties for classes. When Jing Zhe was not around, Yi Qingtang would try out the martial art techniques she recalled from her past life, and make adjustments to her own cultivation methods. Because of little Yuyun, a substantial amount of spiritual abode energy was infused into Yi Qingtang's body. But she had never fully refined it for use. Now was a good opportunity to gradually refine and absorb that unused energy into her body. Teacher Yi, shall I go and ask them to return? After a few consecutive days of being together, Jing Zhe finally dared to speak more freely in front of Yi Qingtang. Initially, even Jing Zhe felt somewhat disheartened after knowing Yi Qingtang's cultivation level. He believed that the academy had given up all hope on him, and so assigned such a lousy teacher on him just to humor him. But Jing Zhe's opinion changed after their first discussion. And after the past few days of continuous guidance from Yi Qingtang, Jing Zhe could clearly feel a sliver of movement in his formerly stagnant power level. Jing Zhe was so excited about this that he couldn't fall asleep for a few nights in a row. Teacher Ye's cultivation level was not high, but she was definitely the best teacher he had ever met in his life. Not only that, her understanding of martial arts was an eye-opener. Yi Qingtang lifted her head at Jing Zhe's words. Over the past few days, apart from Jing Zhe, the other students completely ignored her. As if sensing Yi Qingtang's doubts, Jing Zhe lowered his head bashfully. Teacher Yi, you are better than any teacher I have ever met. Lei Yan and the rest, they misunderstood you. Their talents are higher than mine, and if they return and receive your guidance, they will definitely gain even more significant improvements. Yi Qingtang couldn't help smiling sadly. She had seen plenty of foolish people, but she had never met someone as foolish as him. It was not enough that he was benefiting. He wanted to help the others around him too. He was truly naive. Jing Zhe didn't know what Yi Qingtang was thinking, and he continued. Teacher Yi, actually, I already know that I will be kicked out of the academy soon. In reality, Lei Yan and the rest will suffer the same fate. Yi Qingtang was taken aback. What was he saying? Chapter 2140, Indignant. 2. Jing Zhe started to explain. Lei Yan, he is the young master of the Leitang family. However, he was 11 or 12 years old before he finally returned to the Leitang family. To be honest, Jing Zhe's abilities were considered the worst amongst the group. But Lei Yan was not much better than him. If the two of them got into a real fight, no one could be sure who would win. Jing Zhe came from a normal family and didn't have the support of a major clan. Lei Yan was different. But even under the careful grooming of the Leitang family, Lei Yan's abilities were still mediocre. It was lamentable. Regardless, Lei Yan appeared oblivious to his lack of abilities. There were quite a number of Leitang family disciples in the Netherworld Academy. Leveraging upon his status as the young master of the family, Lei Yan strutted around campus with his group of family disciples, showing off his authority. But in reality, no one held any sort of regard for him. Yi Qingtang did not know much about the others and so listened to Jing Zhe's narration. Yun Chen had pretty good innate talent, but his physical body was weak. His body was unable to withstand overly powerful forces, and so his cultivation progress was being dragged down. As for Nangong Lai, he was a skirt chaser and put all his focus on picking up pretty girls. Previously, he was nearly kicked out of the Netherworld Academy after he tried to pick up the granddaughter of one of the faculty heads. Teacher Yi, tell me. Has it ever happened that someone was born with extremely high innate talents, so high that he was touted as a prodigy, but thereafter went on to be mediocre? And his abilities even seemed to decrease. Jingzhe suddenly raised this query after having thought of something. The world is big and wide, nothing is impossible. This situation can be rather common. Why? Have you met someone like that? Jingzhe hesitated before continuing. Teacher Yi, you should have already noticed that every single one of us in this group suffers from some kind of constraint on our powers and innate talents. I don't have a bloodline, Lei Yan missed out on the prime time to cultivate, Yun Chen has a weak body, while Nangong Lai is just unable to focus on cultivation. But Qin Feng, he is different, oh. Jingzhe explained. Qin Feng is very powerful. Long before he entered the Netherworld Academy, he was so powerful that people were afraid of him. He already reached the Paragon 8th Heaven level by the time he was 10 years old. When he was first admitted into the Netherworld Academy, he was just about to break through to the Divine Lord level. Qin Feng was a true prodigy. He had garnered much attention when he first stepped foot into the Netherworld Academy. Everyone knew that with Qin Feng's innate talent, it wouldn't be long before he broke through to the Divine Lord level. Even in an esteemed place like the Netherworld Academy, he was considered a top student. But unexpectedly, this famous prodigy fell off his pedestal not long after entering the Netherworld Academy. Over the past few years, Qin Feng's powers showed no signs of progress. Instead, they started to decline at an astonishing speed. He was already at the Paragon 10th Heaven level when he first entered the Netherworld Academy. But now, he had regressed to the Paragon 8th Heaven level. He had gone back to the standard he possessed when he was 10 years old. Surprise flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes at Jingzhe's narration. This Qin Feng, his regression was too rapid. Yi Qingtang could vaguely guess the reason why the Netherworld Academy wanted to kick Qin Feng out of the school. After all, the Netherworld Academy was a top academy and expected its students to become more powerful. But a prodigy like Qin Feng ended up regressing after entering the academy. This was a major blow to the Netherworld Academy, and they would never allow this blemish to remain in their school. Chapter 2141, Indignant, 3, What about Mu Ziying? Yi Qingtang suddenly remembered the little girl who sat in the corner in silence, clutching a tattered cloth doll. Jingzhe looked rather grim and he was silent for a moment. Mu Ziying, I don't know much about her. She only came to the academy half a year ago. Yi Qingtang nodded. Inside the martial arts faculty compound, Lei Yan was sneaking a break in the practice arena. Several teenagers from the Leitang family glanced at him. They didn't say anything, but a flash of condescension appeared in their eyes. Lei Yan, we heard that you were assigned a new teacher a few days ago. One of the teenagers who was often at odds with Lei Yan walked over with a group of 7 to 8 other guys. Lei Yan lifted his eyes and his face darkened. Hearing those words, he immediately assumed an arrogant and indignant stance. The school specially assigned a teacher to me, and I also find it rather tiresome. But it's no one's fault that my talents are too exceptional. Of course the academy needs to offer me special attention. Oh, going by what you just said, this new teacher must be pretty good? The teenager asked in a strange tone. Ahem, of course. He is an expert specially hired by the academy, so of course normal students will not get the privilege of being taught by him. Only people with abilities like mine. Lei Yan was unconvinced by Yi Qingtang's powers, but he would never let this rival of his know that. But before Lei Yan could finish his sentence, the group of teenagers started laughing. An expert? Lei Yan, you really know how to bullshit. Senior student Lin said that the new teacher is just a piece of trash who is only at the Paragon 6th Heaven level. He is only able to enter the academy because of Vice President's benevolence. He isn't even considered an official teacher here. Expert my ass, you can't say that. This new teacher might be trash to us, but he might truly be an expert to Lei Yan. What was that phrase? Birds of a feather flock together. Who in the academy doesn't know that he is a useless bum? That's why he was assigned to such a lousy teacher. Those teenagers already knew who the new teacher was and had specially come to laugh at Lei Yan. By now, Lei Yan's face had gone extremely dark. His false front was being ripped to shreds. I say, Lei Yan, resign yourself to your fate. A person like you is just a disgrace to the name of the Netherworld Academy. What did you say? Lei Yan was enraged. He glared at the person and his eyes sparked in fury. At Lei Yan's holler, those Leitang family teenagers had no choice but to secretly roll their eyes and run over to Lei Yan's side. Even the teenagers from the same family did not think much of Lei Yan. But because of his high status in the family, they had no choice but to protect him. The two sides faced off each other, but this commotion soon attracted the attention of the martial art faculty teacher. He immediately separated the two groups and scolded them. Lei Yan in particular got an exceptionally fierce scolding. After all, with his current abilities, he was truly not fit to be in the Netherworld Academy. The teachers here naturally didn't like this young master who only knew how to leverage off his status. Those teenagers smirked as they watched Lei Yan being reprimanded. Those mocking faces incensed Lei Yan so much that his eyes turned bloodshot. A tremendous sense of shame filled his entire soul. Not wishing to remain here a second longer, he turned and hurried off. Those from the Leitang family were already used to such a scene. The other teenagers burst out in another fit of laughter. Stop all your nonsense. Go back and continue your practice. Unless you want to be as useless as him. The teacher scolded with a chilly expression on his face. Chapter 2142, You Dare to Hit My Student. 1. The commotion spread across the entire practice arena. Even Qin Feng, who had been concentrating on his cultivation, was roused by the noise. He turned and saw Lei Yan fleeing pathetically, but his eyes remained flat and emotionless. Brother Feng. A voice rang out beside Qin Feng. Qin Feng turned and saw that three teenagers who had similar features as himself had suddenly popped up nearby. His brows furrowed slightly at the sight of the first teenager. Eldest uncle asked me to bring this for you. The teenager smiled at Qin Feng and placed an elixir flask in front of him. Qin Feng didn't move and that teenager just smoothly placed the bottle back into his own pocket. It was as if he had no intention of really giving that elixir to Qin Feng in the first place. It appeared that Qin Feng was already used to this teenager's actions. He remained silent and just turned to leave the practice arena. Looking at Qin Feng's departing profile, the corners of the first teenager's lips curled up slightly. Qin Xian, just look at him. He still thinks he is the former glorious Qin Feng. Another teenager commented to the first teenager. Qin Xian smiled. He stopped being that a long time ago. That's right. The Qin family invested so much in him, but look at him now, his cultivation level has regressed to this state. The clan master is a fool. Qin Xian, your current cultivation level is already at the Paragon 9th heaven level, and you have long surpassed Qin Feng. The prodigy whom the Qin family needs to focus on now should be you, another teenager piped up. Qin Xian lifted his head slightly, his eyes brimming with confidence. The Qin family only needed one elite prodigy and Qin Feng was already a lost cause. I heard that the Netherworld Academy already has plans to kick Qin Feng out. If he is chased out, as much as the clan master wants to continue protecting him, he probably cannot continue doing so without backlash from the rest of the family. Yet another teenager piped up. In the past, someone from our family even said that Qin Feng would become the next Qin Zhua. Look at him now, he's merely become a joke. Qin Xian, you are the only one now who can help rebuild the Qin family's reputation. If you can find the Sword of Destruction, you will definitely replace the former Sword of Destruction deity, Qin Zhua. The two teenagers continued to speak excitedly. Qin Xian was now the strongest amongst the younger generation of the Qin family. It was only natural that they were treating him as the future leader of the Qin family. The Sword of Destruction went missing over 10,000 years ago together with Qin Zhua. It won't be that easy to find it. Qin Xian sighed. If he could find the Sword of Destruction, he would definitely become the next Sword of Destruction deity. After listening to Yi Qingtang's instructions, Jing Zhe practiced for a long time before going to the other faculties to continue his studies. Having nothing else to occupy her time, Yi Qingtang explored the area, trying to see if she could find traces of the wind-calming pearl. But after going one round and even exploring the Academy's treasure vault, she couldn't find any trace of the wind-calming pearl. It appeared that rumors of the president himself safeguarding those pearls must be true. Just as Yi Qingtang was prepared to turn back and continue her cultivation, the sounds of laughter drifted over to her ears. Yi Qingtang didn't pay much attention at first, but she heard a name being spoken amidst the laughter. That name caught her attention. Mu Ziying, are you deaf or mute? I was calling you. Why are you ignoring me? Chapter 2143, You Dare to Hit My Student. 2. Taken aback, Yi Qingtang immediately turned toward the source of the voices. Standing beneath a tree, several tall, slender teenage girls were surrounding a petite figure. Meng Yao, stand further back from her. You don't want to get infected by whatever strange disease she has. So disgusting. She smells so bad. It makes me feel like vomiting. One of the teenage girls pinched her nose and she glared disdainfully at the wretched-looking Mu Ziying. Mu Ziying's clothes were covered in dust and fresh bruises had appeared all over her hands and face. Blood mixed with dirt was smeared all over her face, making her originally delicate features look very dirty and pathetic. She stood quietly beneath the tree, her head lowered, not uttering a single sound. She only clutched her cloth doll tightly against her chest. I am talking to you, can't you hear me? The more the teenage girl stared at the silent Mu Ziying, the more detestable she found her. She kicked Mu Ziying straight in the stomach. The intense pain had Mu Ziying hunched over in pain. Her already petite figure curled up into an even smaller bowl. I have already tried to teach you this for half a year. Why do you still not understand the rules? The elixirs were given out by the Academy for this month. Why haven't you handed them over to me? Do I have to come looking for you myself? Mu Ziying, you are really something, aren't you? Meng Yao glared hatefully at Mu Ziying. Mu Ziying was still very young and had a very reserved personality, clutching that tattered cloth doll of hers all day long. Unfortunately, her exquisite little face attracted quite a bit of attention. At the same time, it brought her quite a bit of trouble too. Meng Yao and her gang had pretty high innate talents and made use of their powers to bully the other students. A girl like Mu Ziying naturally became their target. Beatings, threats, and extortions were common daily occurrences. Meng Yao, no need to waste your breath on her. They said that this dumb girl is secretly practicing the forbidden skills. She might secretly harm you one day. Forbidden skills. No wonder, she always has that stench about her. Mu Ziying, who had been keeping quiet the whole time, suddenly shuddered. She lifted her eyes and stared at the teenage girl who had just spoken. Her stare was seen as a kind of rebellion and it annoyed Meng Yao and her gang. What are you staring at? Meng Yao frowned. She suddenly focused her attention on the tattered cloth doll in Mu Ziying's arms. Meng Yao gave a smile. Bring me that tattered toy of hers. Mu Ziying's face changed the moment she heard Meng Yao's words. But before she had time to react, the teenage girls had already stepped forward and snatched her precious doll away. Give it back to me. Mu Ziying suddenly cried out, her voice was frail yet filled with anger. This lousy thing, so dirty. Mu Ziying, we are doing this for your own good. Anyone can see that this is not something good for you. To prevent you from going astray, we will help you destroy it. No need to feel too grateful to me for this. Meng Yao gave a malicious smile as she held the cloth doll disdainfully. A ball of fire suddenly ignited in her hand as she made to burn the doll. Mu Ziying instantly went pale as she struggled like a mad person out of the grasp of the other teenage girls. She pounced toward Meng Yao. You're asking for it. Meng Yao narrowed her eyes as she directed the fire in her hand toward Mu Ziying's face. But the moment the fire left her hand, a black flame shot over from another direction and crashed into it. Chapter 2144, You Dare to Hit My Student. 3. The teenage girls were all stunned by the sudden appearance of the black flame. They instinctively turned toward the source. A frail youth with delicate features suddenly appeared by the side. Who are you? Meng Yao frowned at the sudden appearance of that youth. She saw that he was already in his 20s but didn't have a high cultivation level. Arrogance and disdain flashed across her eyes. Looking at the chaotic scene before her, Enchanting ignored Meng Yao's words and only walked over to Mu Ziying. Mu Ziying appeared oblivious to everything. She just kept staring fixedly at the doll in Meng Yao's hands, suddenly pouncing forward to snatch it back. As Meng Yao didn't expect Mu Ziying to pounce again, she was furious and lifted her hand in reflex to smack Mu Ziying across the face. But her hand was restrained before her palm made contact. Meng Yao stared incredulously at Enchanting, who was grasping her hand. Let go of my hand if you don't wish to die. Otherwise I will beat you up too. Meng Yao stated coldly. Oh. You can try. Enchanting smiled. You're asking for it. Meng Yao narrowed her eyes and attacked Enchanting. With the hint of a smile at the corners of her lips, Enchanting lifted her legs slightly and suddenly withdrew. But she purposely slowed down toward the end, so that the draft from Meng Yao's palm just managed to brush past her shoulder. Meng Yao was full of disdain when she saw Enchanting's ducking movement. Netherworld Academy, Rule Number 321. Enchanting suddenly spoke up. Meng Yao was taken aback. She had no idea why this crazy youth was suddenly talking about the academy regulations. Offense against a teacher. 15 strokes of the cane. Enchanting continued. What a joke. Who do you think you are? Meng Yao snorted. Enchanting remained silent, but she lifted her hand and a black flame shot out of her hand to bind Meng Yao. Meng Yao was at the Paragon 7th heaven level. She never expected herself to be restrained by a Paragon 6th heaven level. Bound by the flames, she was completely unable to move. Every time she tried to struggle, a searing burning sensation would spread across her body. What are you all still standing there for? Beat her up. Meng Yao shouted at the stupefied group of teenage girls. Those teenage girls snapped out of their daze and immediately charged toward Enchanting. The scuffle finally snapped Mu Ziying out of her own trance. Surprise flashed across her eyes the moment she noticed the calm-looking Enchanting standing in the midst of the group. Teacher. Teacher Yi. Those teenage girls immediately halted at her voice. What did that damn girl just call this youth? Teacher Yi. For a moment there, everyone was dumbstruck. They finally realized why the youth had recited the academy regulations earlier. The Netherworld Academy held teachers in very high regard. Any student who dared to attack a teacher, they would be dragged to the discipline hall to receive 15 strokes of the cane. The hint of a smile appeared in Yi Qingtang's eyes when she saw that Mu Ziying had recovered herself. She turned toward the restrained Meng Yao. You wanted to know who I am, right? Meng Yao was stunned. Yi Qingtang said mildly, I am Mu Ziying's teacher. The scalps of Meng Yao and her gang went numb at Yi Qingtang's words. They never expected that this normal-looking youth would be a teacher. Chapter 2145, You Can't Leave. 1. The teachers more or less knew that Meng Yao and the others were bullying Mu Ziying, but they only turned a blind eye, indirectly condoning it. After all, a person like Mu Ziying wasn't suitable to stay at the Netherworld Academy. It was rumored that she would be expelled from the academy, which was why Meng Yao and the others dared to treat her that way. However, Meng Yao had never expected that this young person in front of her would claim to be Mu Ziying's teacher. Meng Yao wasn't silly. Though she had no idea why Yi Qingtang did that, she immediately said, Teacher, this is a misunderstanding. We didn't do anything to Mu Ziying. Meng Yao then looked at the dazed Mu Ziying and continued, Sister Ziying, am I right? We were merely having some fun with you earlier. Exactly. We have a good relationship with Mu Ziying, it's just a misunderstanding. The other girls started speaking up. They might have sounded nice, but they glared at Mu Ziying with a threatening gaze. Once Mu Ziying saw their unkind gazes, she lowered her head quietly. Mu Ziying's silence was taken as consent and they were pleased with the outcome. This teacher would be able to catch them in the act once, but certainly not every single time. If Mu Ziying were to say anything against them, they would make sure to take good care of her. Yi Qingtang saw Mu Ziying's reaction. Without any expression on her face, Yi Qingtang lifted her arm, and the black flames dissipated. Meng Yao heaved a sigh of relief after she regained freedom. She wanted to leave right away with the others. As she walked past Mu Ziying, she shot a threatening gaze at Mu Ziying, and in a soft voice, she said, You're lucky this time, but next time, no one will save you. You'd better watch out. In response, Mu Ziying only stood there on the spot, lowering her head and not saying a word. Meng Yao and the others were about to leave when Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke. Did I say that you could leave? Meng Yao was stunned. She instantly turned around to look at Yi Qingtang. One of her friends started pulling on the dazed Mu Ziying's arm while acting friendly. Teacher, we already explained ourselves. This is a misunderstanding, Sister Ziying and I. What does that have to do with me? Yi Qingtang said with a nonchalant tone. Meng Yao's face stiffened. What just happened? Would this young teacher start making things difficult for her just because of Mu Ziying? What else do you have for us? Meng Yao asked. What is the 321st clause of the Academy rules? Yi Qingtang asked. Meng Yao froze. Only then she recalled being rude to Yi Qingtang and her expression darkened. Who the hell even knew that she was a teacher? When did the Netherworld Academy even have a Paragon 6th Heaven level teacher? F15 strokes of flogging for being rude towards a teacher, Meng Yao stammered. Yi Qingtang nodded. Great, so it seems you understand the rules. Once Yi Qingtang said that, a whip magically appeared in her hand. Flexing her wrist, a crisp sound resulted from the cane. It was as loud as thunder and the girls were terrified. Teacher, what are you doing? All the color on Meng Yao's face drained to a blotchy white as she looked at the whip and had an ominous feeling of dread. Chapter 2146, You Can't Leave. 2. I don't have the cane with me, so I'll use a whip instead. Enchanting said with a nonchalant tone. It sounded strangely creepy to Meng Yao and the others. Before Meng Yao could even say anything, Enchanting lifted her arm and hit Meng Yao's arm with the whip. Whoosh! Meng Yao's sleeve instantly split open and a bloody wound appeared on her fair skin. Blood stained her clothes and it hurt so much that Meng Yao broke out into cold sweat. Arr! First stroke. Enchanting looked at Meng Yao casually, lifting her arm to prepare for the second stroke. Meng Yao had never gone through hardship and she subconsciously dodged when Enchanting suddenly spoke. Those who dodge will receive double the punishment. Those words were enough to make Meng Yao halt her actions. Those rules existed. Meng Yao didn't dare dodge anymore. The consequences were dire for going against the rules of the Netherworld Academy. For serious cases, students would be expelled from the academy. Meng Yao was hit by the whip repeatedly and it left bloody wounds on her body. The sounds of the whip hitting her flesh wouldn't stop and it made the other girls terrified. They were afraid that the whip would just land on their tender skin. After 15 strokes of the whip, Meng Yao collapsed onto the ground in a pathetic state. You may leave now. Enchanting retracted the whip. Enchanting didn't hold herself back at all. If Meng Yao wasn't already powerful enough, she would have almost died with those 15 strokes. The other girls quickly helped Meng Yao up and escaped at the speed of light. Only Enchanting and Mu Ziying were left behind. Enchanting picked up the ragged doll from the ground. Enchanting only realized that the doll wasn't made with fabric, but rather, carved with wood. The doll wore some clothes so it looked like it was made with fabric. The doll was made with great workmanship. The arms were adjustable and even the hand could move. It looked quite realistic. Enchanting handed the doll to Mu Ziying. Finally lifting her head, Mu Ziying looked at Enchanting who stood in front of her. Enchanting wasn't tall as compared to males, she was even considered petite. However, when it comes to the young Mu Ziying, she was tall in comparison. As Enchanting stood back facing the light, it was as if she were protecting the pathetic Mu Ziying with her shadow. Mu Ziying looked at the doll before she looked at Enchanting, suddenly lowering her head. Teacher Yi, this had nothing to do with you. You shouldn't be nosy. Enchanting. What the hell? Teacher Yi, you're not powerful enough to become a teacher at the Netherworld Academy. Even though you made it in, you're still new here. You're going to invite a lot of trouble for yourself if you continue being nosy, Mu Ziying said with knitted brows. Enchanting was initially exasperated that this little girl wasn't appreciative of her good intentions, but once she heard those words, she couldn't help but smile. You didn't say anything earlier because you were afraid that the matter would blow up and I would be forced to leave the Netherworld Academy. Mu Ziying remained quiet for quite some time before she finally nodded. Chapter 2147, You Can't Leave, 3. Mu Ziying was already used to Meng Yao and her gang's bullying tactics. As for the newly arrived Yiqing, Mu Ziying was ambivalent toward her. But Yiqing's intervention gave rise to a different sort of feeling inside Mu Ziying. Teacher Yi was the first and only person inside the Netherworld Academy to stand up for her. I will soon be kicked out of the Netherworld Academy anyway. Teacher Yi, you don't need to waste your efforts on someone like me. Mu Ziying kept her head lowered, her soft, childish voice tinged with a sense of helplessness. She already knew that she wouldn't be able to stay on, so she didn't want to implicate Teacher Yiqing. As Enchanting looked at the little girl who had her head lowered the entire time, she couldn't resist reaching out to stroke her head. Who said I am doing this for you? That student was breaking the academy rules. As a teacher, I have the authority to punish her. This has nothing to do with you. Although Mu Ziying didn't acknowledge her as her teacher, she was still under her care. How could she let others bully her student? Mu Ziying knew that Enchanting was only saying this to make her feel better. Teacher Yi, I can see that the workmanship of this puppet is very exquisite. Did your family make this for you? Enchanting didn't want this little girl to continue wallowing in her guilt, and so changed the topic. She could tell that this puppet was very important to Mu Ziying. At the mention of her puppet, Mu Ziying's expression shifted. She shook her head. I made it myself. Wow, you are quite talented. Not bad. Enchanting smiled. Mu Ziying was taken aback. Cheeks flushing, she buried her head in the puppet. Even her ears had turned red. Enchanting was about to laugh when she saw that Mu Ziying had raised the hand of the puppet to make a thank you gesture at her. It made Enchanting feel an even stronger urge to laugh. This girl was a bit strange but still rather likable. Suddenly, Enchanting recalled a technique that she had seen in her past life. She opened her hand and 5 lines of light shot out from her 5 fingers, swirling around the limbs of the puppet. Mu Ziying felt the puppet in her arms move. She lifted her head in astonishment and suddenly saw her beloved puppet float into mid-air. The puppet then made a hugging gesture. It was like the puppet had come alive. Mu Ziying's eyes went round with shock. She was completely dumbstruck. The little puppet circled around Mu Ziying, whose mouth fell open in amazement. By the time Mu Ziying calmed down, she realized that Teacher Yi had one hand raised. One could vaguely see transparent lines of light linking the tips of her fingers to the puppet. Teacher Yi. Do you want to learn? Enchanting smiled at Mu Ziying, who looked extremely eager. Mu Ziying immediately nodded. Enchanting continued. This is called the spirit control line. It is a cultivation technique to control puppets. I will teach you if you want to learn. The spirit control line was created by a puppet grandmaster 300 years into the future. One just had to infuse spirit energy into a puppet to cement a contract between it and the master. The person could then control the puppet even from thousands of miles away. The puppet could even be made to look and behave exactly like a real person. As long as the spirit control lines didn't break off, no one would know it was merely a puppet. Fortunately, Enchanting knew the cultivation technique of the spirit control line. But this kind of technique, which enabled one to even commit murder from afar, was not suitable for her. Chapter 2148, Teaching 1. The puppets used by the puppet masters had to be personally crafted by them. The further the range of control, the higher the skill level required. Although puppet masters then were very powerful, they had rather weak physical bodies. Most puppet masters would hide out in a dark corner and use their puppets to perform tasks. As a result, no one really knew what the most famous puppet masters looked like. Enchanting did not focus much on puppet skills as she preferred to strengthen her own body, or rather, she was unable to carve such exquisite puppets. Can I? Mu Ziying's eyes brightened. In the future, come to my classroom and I will teach you. Enchanting disabled the spirit control line and returned the puppet to Mu Ziying. She had only practiced up to level 1 of the spirit control line technique, and could only control a puppet within a range of 3 meters. Mu Ziying nodded solemnly before breaking out into a smile for the first time. Her grim little face was instantly transformed into a radiant one. Seeing the small girl's hopeful expression, Enchanting smiled and patted Mu Ziying's shoulder before turning to leave. She had managed to settle another brat, but as Enchanting turned, the spirit control line which she had just released seemed to have detected something strange about that puppet. It was the bloody aura of decay. It seemed like that puppet was not as simple as it appeared. Enchanting had settled Mu Ziying. Meanwhile, Meng Yao, who had endured 15 strokes of the cane, was full of rage and humiliation. Damn scoundrel. If not for the fact that he is a teacher, would never let him humiliate me like this. Meng Yao gritted her teeth. She felt a strong urge to skin Yi Qing alive. That Yi Qing had a lower cultivation level than her but managed to one-up her just because she was a teacher. Meng Yao could not disobey and had no choice but to comply. Where did that teacher Yi come from? When did our academy hire such a lousy teacher? Could he be a fake? One of the teenage girls found it very suspicious. I don't think so. I heard that the academy arranged for a new teacher for Mu Ziying and a few other students. And Mu Ziying addressed him as teacher earlier. He can't be a fake, another teenage girl piped up. But I also heard that the new teacher is not an official teacher. He seems to be on probation. Meng Yao became even more incensed at this information. That lousy scum. He's not even an official teacher but dared to use the academy regulations to bully me. We are not going back anymore. Come with me to find teacher Di Nuo. Meng Yao gritted her teeth. Di Nuo was her direct teacher. As he was on good terms with Meng Yao's family, Di Nuo usually took extra care of Meng Yao on campus. This was also one of the reasons why Meng Yao dared to bully others on campus. When Jing Zhe returned to the classroom the next day, he saw that there was a petite figure already inside. Mu Ziying was sitting quietly in the corner, her head lowered as she played with her puppet. She appeared not to have noticed Jing Zhe's arrival at all. Jing Zhe was still feeling surprised when Yi Qingtang entered. Hearing Yi Qingtang's footsteps, Mu Ziying immediately lifted her head and stared at her with sparkling eyes. Jing Zhe, what was going on? Teacher Yi. Mu Ziying hurriedly stood up and bowed respectfully toward Yi Qingtang. Chapter 2149, Teaching, 2, Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. Jing Zhe also snapped out of his trance and bowed. Yi Qingtang was in no hurry. She asked about Jing Zhe's progress before pointing out some mistakes in his cultivation and advising him on how to improve while Jing Zhe listened attentively. Neither of them noticed that Mu Ziying was also carefully listening to their discussion. Mu Ziying had pretty high innate talents, but as her bloodline was too unique, she found it very difficult to practice normal cultivation techniques. However, she had a very high level of comprehension. She could not understand every single thing from Yi Qingtang and Jing Zhe's discussion, but she could comprehend certain parts and those were already enough to amaze her. This teacher Yi had turned all the proper rules of cultivation upside down. But there was still order in the chaos. And it was even more brilliant. All that was shared didn't look like things that a person who was only at the Paragon 6th heaven level could know. The more Mu Ziying heard, the more she couldn't figure out this teacher. Teacher Yi didn't seem to be as lousy as they first thought. Mu Ziying had originally only wanted to learn the spirit control line technique from Yi Qingtang. But after hearing her discussion with Jing Zhe, she inadvertently absorbed and refined all that information inside her mind. After advising Jing Zhe, Yi Qingtang had him go to the side to continue practicing. She then went to Mu Ziying to talk about the spirit control line. The spirit control line was actually not complicated, but before that puppet grandmaster created this technique, no one had thought of such a thing. Yi Qingtang explained the basics of the spirit control line to Mu Ziying, who very quickly understood everything. However, the more Mu Ziying listened to Yi Qingtang's explanation, the more shocked she became. How did Teacher Yi manage to come up with such a simple method, completely reforming the normal techniques of current puppet masters? Teacher Yi, you are so amazing. Mu Ziying spoke with sincerity. Her eyes sparkled as she gazed at Yi Qingtang. She had wanted to learn puppet skills, but the current puppet cultivation techniques were very complicated. One would never be able to control a puppet at will without dozens of years of hard work. But with this spirit control line, Mu Ziying could grasp the method to control puppets within a short period. It shortened the time needed by 100-fold. And the effects were even better. At level 1 of the spirit control line, you will only be able to control your puppet within a range of 5 meters. But this range can be increased if you manage to practice to higher levels. Not only will the range increase, but your controlling skills will also improve. Enchanting continued to explain. Enchanting had used Mu Ziying's puppet during her demonstration of the spirit control line. As a result, she could only control within a range of about 3 meters. Mu Ziying would be controlling her own puppet, and so her range was naturally wider. Puppet masters were a rare occupation. In her previous life, Enchanting only discovered the existence of such people when she arrived at the second domain. Nevertheless, although puppet masters were rare, they had astonishing battle prowess. Especially after the creation of the spirit control line, Enchanting had personally seen a puppet master control a 10,000-strong puppet army from 1,000 miles away. The army destroyed an entire city within minutes. The citizens all died before they could even see clearly who their enemy was. It was rumored that the puppet grandmaster who created the spirit control line could control up to 1,000,000 puppets. Just the thought of that could make one's scalp go numb. One person possessing the power of 1,000,000. It was a terrifying level of battle prowess. Not only that, as the puppet master's cultivation level rose, the powers of his puppets would likewise increase. Chapter 2150, Teaching 3. Mu Ziying was a serious student and Enchanting was a conscientious teacher. After teaching her the key concepts, she let Mu Ziying try the technique out on her own. Then she could come and ask her if she encountered any issues. Apart from practicing the spirit control line, Mu Ziying would also listen to Enchanting's teachings on foundational martial art techniques together with Jing Zhe. Whenever there was anything she couldn't understand, Mu Ziying felt too embarrassed to disturb Enchanting. Instead, she would ask Jing Zhe. Jing Zhe was naturally timid, and faced with Mu Ziying's queries, he would go all red-faced. But he still explained it all to her patiently. Jing Zhe. Mu Ziying had just finished all her queries when she gave a sudden start. She scanned Jing Zhe all over with her pitch-black eyes. Jing Zhe, he swallowed nervously. Your powers seem to have improved, Mu Ziying circled Jing Zhe. Her abilities were above that of Jing Zhe's, and so she could sense the changes in his body. Jing Zhe was taken aback. He immediately blushed. Yes. I have improved a little. I will break through to the 7th heaven level soon. Mu Ziying was startled. So fast. She remembered that Jing Zhe was only at the 6th heaven level when Enchanting had arrived. And he had remained stagnant at the 6th heaven level for many years without any progress. But he was going to break through after just half a month. What kind of demonic speed was this? Even the top prodigies in the Netherworld Academy could not possibly advance by a whole level in just half a month. Teacher Yi, where did he come from? Mu Ziying pursed her lips. She was very curious about the mysterious Yi Qing. At this moment, Enchanting was no longer a lousy teacher in the hearts of Mu Ziying and Jing Zhe. Her teachings had opened a brand new doorway for them both. In fact, her status in their hearts had become extremely high. I don't know, but I feel very lucky to have met Teacher Yi. Jing Zhe gave a silly smile. The hint of a smile also appeared in Mu Ziying's eyes. She hugged her puppet tightly and nodded. Teacher Yi's appearance was like a bright lamp, lighting up their pitch-black paths. Damn, am I seeing things? Nangong Lai was just passing by the classroom when he saw Mu Ziying also sitting inside. He couldn't help feeling rather astonished. Nangong Lai had not come to this classroom over this period of time. He just happened to pass by today, unexpectedly seeing that the strange Mu Ziying was also there. And that useless Jing Zhe. What was going on? Had Mu Ziying also been convinced by that teacher Yi? Impossible. Mu Ziying's powers were even higher than teacher Yes. Nangong Lai was very curious but saw Jing Zhe emerging from the classroom looking like he had something to do. Without a second thought, Nangong Lai immediately turned to leave. Left alone in the classroom, Enchanting settled down to cultivate. By teaching Jing Zhe and Mu Ziying, she was at the same time refreshing her faded past memories on those foundational martial art techniques. As she quietened down to cultivate, there was a sudden knock at the door. Enchanting rose to open the door and saw Nangong Lai standing outside. Why had this brat come looking for her? Enchanting was puzzled. Nangong Lai had a strange expression on his face, but he grinned when he saw Enchanting. Teacher Yi, I just saw something and feel that I need to tell you about it. If you are free now, please hurry over to the martial arts faculty's practice arena to take a look. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.